Today on Share Your Story, I'm joined by Phoenix Ha, a former model turned media buying powerhouse and now the CEO of AdBeacon. From scaling brands with creative firepower to rewriting the rules of paid advertising, post iOS 14, Phoenix merges art and analytics like few can. She led agency teams, taught the next generation of marketers, and built a platform that's changing how we track and scale ads in real time. So we're going to dive into the story here behind the data and meet the woman who's redefining what it means to lead in digital marketing. Thanks for coming
Hi.
on.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm
Well,
also Chris Lang's friend. I think that's my favorite title. I'm friend.
oh, oh, thank you. Yeah, I think, I don't know if you were at 21 Geek Out in San Diego, but
No, I was
I
in
don't know if
Nashville Geek Out.
you were in Nashville Geek Out. So I guess Commerce Roundtable, like in 22 or 23 was when we first met.
That's right. I think it
Yeah,
was. And then we went kind of more in depth and just like started hanging out. You're telling me your philosophy of how you go
yeah,
about things and
yeah.
storytelling. And it was refreshing. And I really enjoyed that
Oh,
conversation. Yeah.
yeah, same. I mean, there's very this industry is my favorite industry, but the connections you sort of make, like you're one of those people where it's like we can get as deep as we want and we can go, as far, into it and also kind of understand like there's there's just a lot of levels to kind of what we do. And I think you're one of the few people who really have sort of been behind the scenes on each of those levels. Whereas some people, they're kind of like, oh, I kind of get into one, platform, and then they kind of that's who they are. You seem to be kind of around the industry just from multiple standpoints, which has always impressed me about you. So,
That's actually really cool that you said you're the only person that's ever said that and connected the dots because you're
oh,
right.
really?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people think like I'm just an attribution person, or they'll come in and be like, she's just a meta person. But
Mm,
actually, my story started, sure, in modeling, but it was actually
mhm,
like more on the brand side.
right.
So I learned a lot about brand. I learned about
Mhm,
more of the commercial marketing before I even learned about paid media. So
right.
you start to look at, and then you also have like a mindset of a brand rather
Mhm,
than just agency. And then you also look
right.
at like the pace in which things move or
Mhm,
how decisions are made and how people really think and what entices them. So having that holistic approach has been super cool because I also came from influencer marketing, experiential
mhm,
marketing, PR, and
mhm.
it just happened to be the way God made it happen. And he's like,
Yeah,
hey, guess what? You're going to be in all these facets. So I like
yeah.
to listen. And when I listen to you about storytelling,
Mhm,
there's this conversation that was happening in D2C for so long, including with some of my closest friends in this
mhm,
industry.
mhm.
And they're just like, can I curse?
Of course.
They're just like shitting on brand. They're
Yeah.
shitting on the concept of brand.
I
And
know. Yes, I know. Yes, we know.
and a lot of the people who were shitting on brand now have brands and have
Yeah,
realized like,
yeah,
oh, it's so much bigger. And because LTV, a lifetime value, has become such a big
right.
thing, like they realize now the switch. So when you're talking about storytelling, you were already miles ahead and
Mhm.
understood. So yeah.
I just find it interesting, I've championed the story for so long, and I really felt like literally I'm in New Mexico, I'm building in the desert. There's no DTC community, and it's one of those things where I just had so much conviction for like, I remember going door to door, knocking on people's, businesses and trying to sell them social media or websites, digital marketing services, and they're like, "No, I'm good, I'm in the phone book." So again, I was a little bit ahead of my time in that standpoint, but it's something of a champion for a long time, and I think what's interesting now is that we're going into an era where story is more important than ever. Like, it is literally, like, what we have left as humans,
Yep.
and it's our purpose, so we'll definitely get into that. We'll definitely get into
I'm
that.
down for it. Yeah.
But let's talk about kind of the beginning, just kinda like, I I mean, and we can go as far back as you want, like, because you got into some really kinda cool, I have an apparel company. You got into a lot of kind of cool apparel brands, and I'm sure modeling was a little bit of gateway, but, like, kind of like what influenced that? Like what influenced you kind of, growing up as a kid and what you gravitated and like how did that process come to be for you?
Yeah, I think like I 100% give my mom all the credit.
Mm,
And I'm 31, right? So my
mhm,
mindset is very different than back then. But
mhm,
I look at it in a full scope. So for example, it all started with my mom. My mom laid out clothes on the bed. She
mm,
never picked out clothes for me and said, "Okay, pick out your clothes."
hmm,
And I mean, I picked out the weirdest outfits. I was a hardcore tomboy. My mom is my opposite. She's a girly
yeah,
girl to the max. I'm Chinese, so my mom was
yeah,
like, "Dress like a girl, like you just look like a boy," right? But she
mhm,
still respected the fact that I had my own style. So I
right,
think it started there. My best friend, I also believe in this concept of discernment and confidence behind making decisions. So
mhm,
like my best friend, she was really good at two things, fashion and cooking. You can never
mhm,
be in the kitchen and you can never tell her what to wear. And I was fascinated by that because to me, I'm like, oh, she feels it. She's not just
mm,
influenced. And
right,
then people like tribes and communities. So I would walk. And I think also, too, the other side of it is because I'm a child of an immigrant,
mhm,
I'm first generation here.
mhm,
I started to see how American culture kind of adapted and would like I would say be attracted to certain things
right,
versus, the Chinese culture. So you have to take that lens when you're talking about
mhm,
my story and growing
right,
up and going, what do I do? And
mhm,
working with brands just fell into my lap.
mm,
Actually, funny story. The only reason why I started working with brands is because I was dating a chef at the time,
mhm,
like low key, and I was really young. And he's like,
mhm,
"Hey, there's this creative agency. It's this new thing, and I'll get you in. It's really hard to get in." And I got in. And I was like, "Look, you don't get a lot of opportunities in life, but if you're gonna do anything, do it 110%, and if it
right,
doesn't work out, it doesn't work out."
right,
And I did it, and I was like, "Holy crap, this is a whole other world." So, I was able to work with, like, Keen, the footwear brand,
mhm,
pretty quickly. Impossible Foods, before they launched, we were their,
wow,
like, incubator type of system, and then, Nike with the Lunar Charge launch and all of
mhm,
these, and I realized something very quickly, and I'll kinda tie it up with a bow, is that no matter how big the brand, no one knows what they're really doing.
right, yeah, yeah, isn't that interesting? They're still led by people.
Right. You're still led by people, so I think that was my fascination, and I just tied all these different aspects of growing up together, and
Mhm,
the one thing I love about our industry, aside from direct to consumer, if we're just talking
mhm,
about commerce
right,
altogether,
yeah, of course,
the thing is that everything is different. Like,
mhm,
there's no one formula to make it work, which is why I
right,
love this shit so much,
right, it's hard,
and you gotta get creative and you gotta get gritty, right? Like,
right,
if you're throwing a birthday party and you don't have a lot of money, find a way to throw it together and make it look great and feel good. You don't have to have a
right,
lot of money. That's how a lot of brands operate too. So,
right,
it's a very long-winded explanation, but I think it paints a
no.
little color as to where and why.
No, I like that, and I think it shows to your point, a couple of themes that we have going on here is like brand, we have story, and then also kind of just kind of human nature, and I think I just want to say this real quick because I keep having it in my mind. I've seen brands go to zero. Like brands can go to zero. Like, and I've experienced that personally. We've all seen it happen in the big leagues. We get it. But also brand is sort of what kind of can keep you going too, and I've experienced that as well, where I've had struggling businesses, and it's because of the brand that has been able to sort of, continue and survive. And, and so and then I think just the human nature of, like, seeing other people sort of, like, behind the scenes making decisions, you're like, "Oh, I can do that, I can do that." And so, is that kinda where the confidence kinda came from? Just kinda watching how other people worked and, like, or kinda what was that next step for you?
It's a lot of discernment back down to like
Okay.
uh, it's so funny. Like when you overthink something or you
Mhm.
lack originality, it
Right.
shows, in my
Right.
opinion.
Right.
So, like, for example, really great example of this, and I'll use it like as a case study. When we were at Supra Footwear, when I was at Supra
Mhm.
Footwear, which is a skatewear brand, we didn't have a lot of budget. We were kind of on the downhill
Right.
because we had been bought out by a company called K-Swiss Global Brands, and it was a
Mhm.
Christian Korean company that had an umbrella of K-Swiss, Otzi, Palladium shoes, and
Mhm.
Supra. But if
Mhm.
you know anything about Supra, they don't belong in a portfolio of Christian Korean company. They're
Mm.
they're disruptive. They used to have like a budget for bailing skaters out, right? Like
Yeah.
this is a whole other dynamic.
Right.
And you sit there and we have to create off the wall ideas to
Mhm.
gain engagement. Back in the
Yeah.
day before the idea of engagement was as big as it was, right?
Right.
So, you sit there and you have to be confident enough to go, I'm going to have a really fucking crazy idea.
Right.
And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. At the time, I couldn't because HR was like, there's no way, Phoenix. But
Mm.
you have to feel it in your gut. I think number one, it comes down to the same thing with ads. Do I care about this ad? Would
Mm.
I care about this to actually buy? Or is
Right.
this just like a cookie cutter, whatever?
Mhm.
With Supra, we needed to gain traction for this campaign called We Are Supra. So I was like, why don't we create a floaty, a giant
Mhm.
floaty in the shape of the Supra logo? Let's
Yeah.
get of our top writers because we have them on salary. So Chad Muska, Eric Ellington, Lizard King, Jim Greco. Let's get them all on
Mhm.
this floaty, smoking weed and floating down the LA River. And then let's call the cops on them and call every single channel, CNN, all of them, and have them get
Dang.
coverage.
Wow.
And then we'll bail them out of jail. Like,
That's epic.
but you, I think, have to just go for it. And
Right.
if you have the right leadership, so because I
Right.
was 23 at the time, right? But if you have the right leadership, like a Chris Lang, he's going to
Yeah.
go, let's figure out a way to make this happen.
Yeah.
Or no, but let's create another iteration. I
Right.
think what happens often is that we look at competitors or we look at our business and we go, we need to already be proven before we do it and risk our dollars.
Mm.
And I think that's my style with everything
Right.
is if it makes sense to me, that's enough.
Right.
And because for me, I'm a hyper analyzer. I go through every
Right.
scenario possible. And if it doesn't make sense, I won't move. But if it makes
Right.
sense to me, I'll move. And I am confident with my decision making in order to do that. And I can back my shit just as much as I talk my shit. So
Right.
that's the way my brain works. And I think that would answer your question of why I go in that direction. And um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a balance of, like, creative strategy and thinking, but to take it, like, a step further too, kinda like as you were growing up as, first generation, it's also about feeling and, like, kind of that aspect of a community. Do I wanna be a part of this? Do I not wanna be a part of this? So, I think that's really kind of valuable that you are using data and analytics,
Always.
but
Yeah.
you're also trying to think of, like, how do I get people to feel something too? Which is
Yes.
ultimately, like, kind of the key with it. I no, that's
Creatively
interesting.
driven and, like, data backed, right? You have
Mhm.
to have data. You can't just, like, pretend everything's gonna be great and not be
Yeah.
data backed. But yes, absolutely what you're saying.
Okay, so you were at Supra. Was this after the creative agency? Like, how did you kinda get to Supra? Like, and
I
then
got poached
you got poached.
from
Okay, cool, cool. And
yeah.
then kind of what was the what all did you kind of accomplish there, and kind of what was your next step after that?
Yeah, so I was 23 and I was given, like, this giant budget, didn't know what I was doing. They gave me, like, this marketing analyst title, but in
Right.
reality, there was nobody in the marketing role. It was me.
Mm.
And so I just said, "I'm interim marketing director." And like I just
Yeah.
said, it is what it is, and I don't care. And um, in that role, you either sink or swim. I think
Mhm.
that's like the thing. You just get an opportunity. And w- the only thing I had currency wise to bring to the table was
Right.
the relationships I had with influencers. Because at the
Mm.
creative agency, I created this department of influencers and contracts and working with lawyers and
Right.
negotiations.
Right.
So I was like, how do I get all these people who are now my friends? It's not
Mhm.
just a transaction, and get them to come to every super event and see them all super gear and do that.
Mhm.
So we started that way. And then when we would have collaborations, like one of my favorite is the Modelo. So
Mhm.
Constellation Brands Modelo and Super Launch. Let's create a crazy party. It's going to
Mhm.
be small. I'm going to try to get everything for free as much as possible, which is terrible. We're going to film everything and we're going to
Yeah.
throw like a kick-ass party, smashing bottles,
Right.
doing the craziest stuff
Right.
safely.
Yeah.
And we did that and we live streamed the event while we were like also doing a collaboration with Skullcandy, all the stuff. We live
Yeah.
streamed the event and we sold out within minutes
Wow.
of the shoe. It was all about a
Right.
shoe, but it was a
Right.
lifestyle.
Right.
That was one of my favorites. A second one is Badwood. So it was a
Okay.
local artist within my area. I grew up with her. Her name's Natalie Wood. And we loved her and we're like, okay, small artists create something. So she designed a shoe. We did like a launch with her, did a party, sold out within 30, 40 minutes. Then
Wow.
we did a second collaboration where she created a jacket because she's an artist. And
Mm-hmm.
then we did like a fundraiser for
Yeah.
that jacket that she personally drew on.
Mm.
And then it was just basically a running auction, and all the proceeds would go to a dog rescue.
Yeah.
We sold out, and that was double stock. We sold out within an hour. And it's those things that really got, I didn't know anything about paid media at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the type of stuff I feel really accomplished for. Now, if you
Right.
talk to someone in D2C and you want to get their attention, I worked
Yeah.
with Disney there directly
Yeah.
and did 2 collaborations, Beauty and the Beast, and we did
Mm.
Snow White, and then we worked with all these other big brands. So, but those are like my heart, like I
Right.
love. Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So after Supra, what was the next step, and how'd you kind of, get there?
Yeah. God had other things in store for me.
Okay.
Wanted to rock my world. So at the time I was dating somebody who is not my now husband,
Yeah.
and he was starting a business, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go all in on this business with you." So I quit Supra with no backup plan. I
Yeah.
ended up just going back home and working with him on the business. The business ended up folding because there was a shooting that happened at a country bar called Borderline, where
Okay.
12 people lost their lives.
Mm.
Yeah. And we were doing meal prep work, and the kitchen we used was that kitchen.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And not only did, that tragedy happen, but we lost all our equipment, everything, because
Right.
it's an active crime scene. And then 3 days later, I think it's now the Woolsey fire. I've told the story so many times. I think you originally said it was a different fire, but
Yeah.
it demolished our area, and there's so many clients that lost their homes. So we just folded, and including the relationship folded. So I'm over here, no job,
Yeah.
no savings,
Mm.
and just like moved back in with my mom, which I hadn't done since I was 17.
Yeah.
And you just sit there and you're like numb.
Right. Sobering.
It's a real thing. And
Right.
I think it was a good thing to knock my ego down a little bit too, because I was on
Mm.
this really crazy trajectory. And then you sit there and you just look at the things that matter. So I ended up just working at this brewery
Mm.
that I never really even drank. And I
Yeah.
actually met my now husband there. So I think that's the reason why.
Was he, because I know he's a winemaker. Was he making beer back then?
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
he was
Okay.
in the Bay Area teaching baseball. He was a
Oh, okay.
baseball, like, yeah, he just happened to come and it worked out. And the family that I met, I became best friends with, and now are my
Yeah.
in-laws. I
Yeah.
think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
But in that interim before D2C, I started working with really small companies
Mm.
with really small budgets that didn't have any ability to move one way or another, and just had to do with what, and I think it was a blessing because they wanted to dabble into paid social and search, but they didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to, I was figuring it out. And
Right.
fast forward, there was a LinkedIn ad that says, we're looking for people in paid search for this agency in the area. And I was like, oh, awesome. They're going to teach me how to search, or they're going to pay me to search things.
Yeah, yeah.
No. And I got the paid social role. I took
Right.
the entry level salary.
Mhm.
I was like, I don't care. I will take whatever I can get, and I will outwork everyone around me. And they're like, yeah,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, of
And I
course.
did. And
Yep.
within 6 months, I became the director of that department, and then
Wow.
tripled their revenue in that department, created another
Wow.
department in organic. And then while that was all happening, started speaking at Ad World and Affiliate World. And this is not planned. This was just like a crazy tsunami of things. I was getting my EMBA at the same time.
Mm.
It was like the scariest moment. But then iOS 14 happened, and that was the scariest. And that's what led us to AdBeacon today. It's been a crazy turn of
Yeah.
events.
Yeah, iOS 14 was 21, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I remember that moment. That's actually how I kinda got into this world that we're in now. I had to leave New Mexico, and, like, it was a geek out event. It was Shaq on Instagram talking about, and I was like, I told my partner, I'm like, I think it would cost, I don't remember how much it cost, 3,500, 5 grand, whatever it was. But I just remember like, hey, I'll pay half, that the brand can pay half. Like, just, I got to find some answers. A lot of us, it was sort of, if I knew back then how, like, nice it was. You just would have double, triple down so much. We didn't know how good we had it back then, from a media buying standpoint,
No.
and that really rocked everyone's world. I did not know what to do, and again, I don't know. I think what I kinda took away from that, I got into SMS marketing a little bit more. I was doing email pretty well. Even, like, Chase looked at my account, my Freshly account at the time, he's like, "I can't help you." I was like,
Diamond?
"Dang." Yeah, Chase Diamond, yeah. He even looked at my account at the Geek Out event, he's like, "I can't help you, like, you're maxing out what you can." I was like, "Oh, okay, well." So, it was a scary moment because I'm like, "Okay, well, if I can't get iOS help, can I get email help? Well, Chase can't help me. Like, what's gonna happen here?" So, I mean, let's talk about that moment and kind of what led you to kind of AdBeacon today.
Dude, it's the same moment you're describing. It's terrifying. Like,
Yeah.
I f I resonate with what you're saying, and,
Mhm.
um, I think right place at the right time,
Mhm.
you know, uh okay, so iOS 14 hits. Everyone's freaking out. My
Mhm.
natural reaction is whatever. What happens will happen, and well, it happened to me first, it feels like, 'cause, like,
Right.
I lost almost 40% of my book of business. A lot of brands folded. You said that yourself. Um, when you have brands that are working month to month, a lot of brands
Mhm.
are working month to month on in,
Right.
like, revenue.
Right.
It's a scary business game or a business strategy to play with. I
Right.
also had a really hard time when I was reporting. It was getting worse and worse. I would report what Meta was telling me, which is all the
Right.
access I had other than GA at the
Right.
time, GA Universal, and, I would report it, and then you'd go into the Shopify, WooCommerce, or BigCommerce store, and you'd be like, "That doesn't add up."
Right.
Like, Meta would be like, "Congratulations, you made $50,000." You'd go in, and it
Mhm.
it was like, "We only made $38,000 this, time period," and you're like,
Right.
you can only do so much to save the confidence level from your client because they
Right.
now think that you're the one lying, or Meta's lying and
Right.
something's wrong, and
Right.
so, yeah, that was a really scary time. Also,
Mm.
by the way, Chris, you probably don't know, I was managing a large team. I had an all-female team. I lost my team 3 times within a year. My entire team turned 3 times within a year. I had literally touched down from Dubai. I was, like, on my
Mhm.
high horse, like, "I'm so
Right.
famous, like, I'm in Dubai speaking," and I was literally telling everyone that was like, "Hey guys, I have an all-female team." I land and I get
Mm.
a resignation letter from my head media buyer.
Mhm.
I got a, "Hey, by the way, I'm going on maternity leave," but she never came back.
Right.
And all these it was devastating.
Yes.
I will tell you though, the next year I went to Dubai, the first thing that came out of my mouth was like, "Hey guys, remember when everything was up and up? Let me tell you what happened." But
Right.
yeah, it was a scary time and we had to create a solution. We had to figure it out. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's interesting, and so how do you start with software? I mean, you've been in these other roles, but, like, how do you I mean, especially back then, I think maybe now, like, with AI, it definitely feels a little bit more feasible, but back then, where'd you turn to?
Yeah, so, my business partner and co-founder, he is the CEO of that agency that I was at.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
at that time, we had our own head of BI, who is now basically our CTO and another co-founder,
Yeah.
and he has created our dream. But
Mm.
let me just tell you something. I did not come into this business to build an attribution platform, okay?
Mm.
Like, that was never the goal, and we were kind of figuring out a solution. I had tried my now competitors. So I tried Triple Whale, Hyros,
Yeah.
I tried Wicked Reports. As a consumer, I had no
Right.
intentions of creating this,
Right.
and when I did that, I just felt like it wasn't built for my teams. It
Mm.
felt like a super powered analytics platform, but nothing was built for action.
Mm.
It was a lot of like, "That's good to know, but now what?" And
Right.
I also knew it was really difficult because every time I would introduce a tool to my team, they wouldn't use it.
Right.
So I was like, "Okay, I don't like this." And I started talking to my CEO at the time, my now co-founder, and I was like, "Ugh, I wish it did this, or I
Right.
wish it did that." And he looked at me and he was like, "Why don't we just build it?"
Mm. That's
And
awesome.
at first he wanted to build it as the product differentiator for his agency. So it was just like an internal tool.
Yeah.
But as we started creating it, we decided we're like, let's not do that. Let's make this a company. So
Mhm.
what we ended up doing is we took 40 of my accounts and they were nice enough to give me a 9-month beta with this.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was just, it was like maybe 8 months. And I
Yeah.
tested on 40 accounts of different sizes, small spends, large spends, et cetera, different
Right.
industries. And I used only AdBeacon data and the philosophy that I had, which is click attribution only, not view attribution.
Mm.
I made the reports the way that I wanted, and I created case studies. So we were able to retain, but we were also able to grow performance. And then
Yeah.
my favorite part of it is we realized it was attracting higher quality clients because we had this technology.
Right.
So it like kind of like jump started. I like to say that AdBeacon does the small brain work so then I can use my big brain energy.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And that's how it came to be. And then we launched, and it was everything has been word of mouth, Chris. We don't spend money on anything other than
Right.
maybe brand support on
Right.
Google,
Yeah.
brand keywords, and that's it. Everything has been just kind of like referral based.
So, and then what would you say like some of the success stories, from brands, using that beacon?
Yeah, like I just did one today. I was
Yeah.
just talking to a client today. So in AdBeacon, we have a built-in 30, 60, 90-day report.
Mhm.
And it's in relation to usage. So I believe a platform is only as powerful as its usage. So you can
Right.
see the relation of usage to rise or fall in metrics. And I
Mhm.
don't just mean metrics per channel, I mean overall metrics
Mhm.
altogether. So we have that. I went over it with this client today and we're like, oh my gosh. And we're starting to see this like rise start to happen. And we're like,
Yeah.
okay, let's now look at your overall. So, what we saw very quickly are a couple different things. Number one, creative analysis. We saw
Mhm.
that one model drove far more revenue than another model, right?
Yeah.
It's the idea of who your customer is or
Okay.
your ideal customer is versus
Right.
who they're actually responding to.
Mm.
So, doubling down on those efforts. Another client of ours, which was Brixton, I was able to see that zoomed in shots of like flannels. I think I talked to you about
Right.
this, did
Yeah.
far better versus lifestyle on body with a model.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. We were
Yeah.
also able to identify on the like optimization level
Mhm.
what products people were buying from their ads. So you don't really have those insights anywhere else. So it's not
Right.
browsing data. It's not like what we think predictive modeling is of what they might likely buy from add to cart ratio. No. What
Right.
did people actually buy from clicking these ads? And because of that, we were able to realize, oh, shoot, like one time a women's campaign driving to women's collection pages weren't converting. People were buying men's products.
Mhm.
Or we found out, for example, like your hat, what if we were showcasing that colorway, but people were actually buying the black colorway?
Right.
So why don't we optimize a landing page to have both hats,
Dang.
increase AOV? These
I
are
really
things.
I
Yeah.
really need this for fresh chili. I really this would make my life so much easier. Yeah, you're right. Our human emotion tells us to use this image all the time, and it's a lot of times it's wrong.
It's one of those things we don't really like. I'm a firm believer that common sense is not common,
Right. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not to say your intelligence isn't there. It's just this
Right.
assumption. At
Assumptions, right.
assumption. Ad beacon's a really great way to clarify the data. So
Mm,
the analysis we have too, um, in agency world, the number one
right,
thing we hear from brands is turn off Meta. Meta's trash now. I don't want to invest there. Invest in Google, right?
right.
So in AdBeacon, we look at all the customer journeys as a whole, so all the clicks, and then we showcase the top converting paths across all channels. But then we do an analysis of if first click and they get all the revenue, how much revenue is there, which is going to be your
Uh-huh.
introductory channel.
Right.
If last click, these are all the channels in relation, and that's usually where it stops.
Mm,
But here's the thing, if meta is terrible first click and meta is
mm,
usually always terrible last click, then your assumption is to turn it off. But what if I looked at linear, which goes all the clicks all together and giving it incremental credit for that sale? Let's look at the revenue because it might be the reminder channel and you
right.
just chopped off the legs to your campaigns. that
Mm,
reminds people. So then you look at linear and you go, oh my gosh, wait a minute. It's like $60,000 worth of revenue. And then you
right,
have to go back to yourself and say, is that a palatable number to reallocate spend? If
right,
yes, great. Now it's not based off of feelings and emotions, it's based off of
right.
data. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's not talked about enough, you know. I think there's still, you could say, across the industry, a lot of assumptions being made. Um, no, this is great. I know you got to run in just a moment. I just want to kind of ask you real quick on with what you guys are seeing with AI right now. How is this affecting your software growth or like building or data? Like how are you guys kind of using what's happening? I mean, literally, it's like daily updates. It was weekly updates. Now it feels like daily updates. I mean, every day I got to have like a rundown of what did you update today. So how are you guys leaning into that?
If you asked me this, which a lot of people did maybe a year ago, I
Right,
didn't really answer it because I didn't know. You just don't
right,
know enough about AI unless you're in it.
right.
Very, very great question today. I can't speak too much, but you know how everyone's talking about AI agents and what that
Well,
looks like.
yeah.
And
I
like,
mean, Cinlane, same thing. I can't speak too much, but trust me, we're working.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'll say the same thing. We're working.
yeah.
So let me tell you what's live. What's live right now is we have AI. And I
Hmm.
say that loosely because when people say AI, it's like this new buzzword. You step on a stage, you say AI, people clap, and you walk off, right? It's like, what? So I believe AI is only as powerful as the master prompter.
Hmm.
So what we did is we said, okay, if we took all this data that we have AdBeacon and we had it analyze it into four categories: insights, which is just reading the data; opportunities, LTV and retention focus; and then last one is low hanging fruit, easy wins.
Hmm.
And then I had top media buyers write the prompts.
Okay.
That's the way that we utilize it right now. So we have those four categories in AdBeacon. It reads all the data on the left and then it spits out what we think on the right. Okay.
Right.
Now, what we're bringing to the table without leaking too much is
Right.
my number one goal is to connect the dots in ways nobody else has connected the dots.
Your
With
creative
a
thinking. This goes back to your creative thinking. I gotta know what the float with the smoking, with the calling the cops and CNN. This is the
Yeah,
moment, right?
exactly. So to me and my brain, and I won't go too far, like there's a
Yeah.
lot of things going and cooking in my brain, but one of
Yeah.
them is how do we utilize the technology we already have access to that already exists in a completely different way? I think of
Mm,
like Post-its, right? Paper and glue. No one
right.
really thought to put them together. You think about the Ring doorbell. It's literally just this device that's a camera. It's a camera at the end of the
Right.
day.
Right.
Um, and I thought to myself, there's so many MTA tools. Like,
Hmm.
what can we do to solve a lot of the problems? And great, so we got the base level done. But what I realized is everyone's clicking around and not
Hmm.
connecting the dots the way my brain would do it
Right.
because common sense isn't common. So, how do we make it as easy as possible? So, we've already been developing this in Q2 and
Hmm.
making it something really actionable. And I think that's what sets us apart is we're not an analytics tool, we're an action plan. And
I like that.
we're also data that's backed that isn't proprietary or isn't like this black box. So,
Right.
that's kind of my hint to you. And then there's definitely AI in place that is true
Right.
AI, not just like reading data and
Right.
responding.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Awesome. What's your dog's name, by the way?
Her name is Nesta. She's a Belgian Malinois. She's
Oh,
crazy. And then I
awesome.
have a Chihuahua who's just sleeping in the back.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have a German Shepherd and kind of a Border Collie, both rescue. Yeah, they like to bark, so want to
Yeah,
give them
no.
a little shout out.
Sup? Yeah, no, mine
Yeah,
just found her voice. She's a
yeah.
baby still, so
Oh, okay.
it's been a dream.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was really amazing. And again, if you're not using that beacon to make the right decisions, today's the day.
Today's the day. Also, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to see you. Thank you for
Oh,
having
you
me.
too. You too.
Um, I will tell you to like round this out that there are whoever's listening, right?
Mm,
There are seldom moments where I get to meet someone and have a very genuine conversation with at a conference or like wherever. And every time I have a conversation with you, Chris, it's a genuine interaction. And like I think it's important to highlight that to people,
mm.
whoever listens, just how rare that is and how much I appreciate it. So thank you. And
Oh, thank
it's good to
you.
see you.
Yeah, no, the same. And I think a lot of it stems from my background too. I Just real quick, I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up no running water, no electricity. I grew up Cherokee in Oklahoma. I had to learn, rewrite, and speak Cherokee. And I feel like I identify with a lot of first generation Americans because for me, I didn't grow up in this like America that people talk about all the time. And so for me, the same thing, always on the outside looking in. And so, yeah, I mean, I've always kind of vibed with people who kind of see America a little bit differently. So yeah, from the outside.
Well,
So
you've
I
got a
appreciate it.
cheerleader over here. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan. Big fan. Big fan.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. Well, that's it for Share Your Story. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.